Tito Ortiz's story is a warning to every UFC fighter. A rise from the gutter to the top of the fight world, followed by a crash that left his reputation in pieces. In the early 2000s, when the UFC was struggling to survive, Tito Ortiz became its biggest star. With bleached blonde hair and brutal ground and pound, he gave the UFC a fighter who could win, talk, and sell fights. But behind the scenes, his journey was filled with fights outside the cage, public breakdowns, and a refusal to let go.
So,
in 87, we moved to back to Huntington Beach.
okay.
And then
Tito was born Jacob Christopher Ortiz on January 23, 1975, in Huntington Beach, California. His early life was filled with pain. His parents were heroin addicts. His father left, and his mother struggled to raise him. He got involved in gangs, got arrested, and barely graduated high school. But wrestling gave him a way out. He wrestled in high school, then at Golden West College, where he became a junior college champion. Later, he transferred to Cal State Bakersfield, training under Daryl Pope and rooming with future UFC champion Mark Kerr. He didn't plan to enter MMA, but in 1997, his friend Tank Abbott got him into UFC 13 as a late replacement. He won his first fight, but lost the final. Still, people noticed him. Loud, aggressive, and covered in blonde hair, he looked like a surfer, but hit like a truck. Over time, he became known for his violence in the cage and his trash talk outside it. He wore flame-covered shorts, waved the American flag, and mocked opponents. In one rematch, he wore a shirt that read, "Gay Mesger is my expletive," sparking early controversy in MMA. Despite the behavior, Tito had serious talent. He had strong wrestling, powerful strikes, and endless cardio. He could take an opponent down and punish them with elbows. In 2000, when the UFC was falling apart, Tito became its savior. He wasn't just winning, he was making people care. When he beat Wanderlei Silva for the light heavyweight title, it was the start of a new era. He defended that belt 5 times against names like Yuki Kondo and Vladimir Matyushenko. His ground and pound style was brutal. He smothered opponents and didn't let them breathe. His rivalry with Ken Shamrock gave the UFC its first real storyline. After beating Shamrock's student, Tito mocked him. That led to years of back and forth that became must-see drama. He also built a brand. His company, Punishment Athletics, was one of the first fighter-owned businesses. He sold gear, wore signature looks, and appeared on talk shows. He was the UFC's first crossover star. But fame brought problems. He wanted more money and more power. He started seeing himself not just as a fighter, but as a business partner. That created tension with Dana White. Tito wanted bigger paydays and more control. Dana saw him as difficult. The feud became personal. Tito skipped fights, argued publicly, and made demands. Dana fired back, calling him names, and even challenged him to a boxing match, which Tito didn't show up for. Tito's power started to fade when fighters like Chuck Liddell and Randy Couture took the spotlight. Liddell, once his friend, accused him of ducking fights. Couture beat him and took his title. Dana pushed him aside. He still fought, but no longer had the company behind him. The star who helped save the UFC now felt like an outsider. The UFC gave him one last shot at relevance with a trilogy against Shamrock. Their fights sold huge numbers. The second bout on Spike TV pulled in over 4 million viewers. Tito won all 3 fights. He leaned into the role of villain. But while he stayed in the spotlight, his body was falling apart. He needed surgeries, battled spinal injuries, and couldn't keep up with younger fighters. The game had changed. Tito hadn't. He lost to new stars like Lyoto Machida and blamed everyone but himself. He said injuries held him back, accused the UFC of bad matchmaking, and claimed conspiracies. But fans stopped buying it. His comeback ended with a string of losses. His post-fight interviews became a joke. He made strange claims about injuries. Joe Rogan once looked visibly uncomfortable during a post-fight talk. In 2011, he shocked everyone with a win over Ryan Bader. It was a throwback to his prime, but it was short-lived. More losses followed. His rubber match with Forrest Griffin ended with Forrest running out of the cage to avoid Tito's post-fight rant. It was symbolic. The sport had moved on. His time was over, but he refused to accept it. When the UFC career finally died, he turned to business. He tried growing his brand but failed. Punishment Athletics lost retail partners. His gym business fell apart from poor planning. Then he became a fighter manager. But again, his ego and bad management chased away clients. In 2020, Tito ran for city council in Huntington Beach. He won, but the job exposed how unprepared he was. He skipped meetings, refused to wear a mask during COVID, and constantly argued with fellow officials. He made strange public statements that went viral for the wrong reasons. He misunderstood city laws, mumbled through press conferences, and became a national punchline. Within months, he resigned and blamed political attacks. But Tito still wanted to fight. He joined Bellator in 2014 and beat Alexander Shlemenko, a smaller middleweight. The win brought him attention, but fans doubted how real the fight was. He followed it up with a strange build-up to a fight with Stephan Bonnar. The trash talk felt forced. The fight was slow and sloppy. He won, but it felt like nostalgia, not competition. Then came his most shocking fight. In 2018, he fought Chuck Liddell a third time under Oscar De La Hoya's short-lived Golden Boy MMA. Liddell was long retired and shouldn't have been fighting. Tito knocked him out, but the win felt sad, not satisfying. Fans didn't celebrate. They cringed. Even Tito's most loyal fans admitted it was hard to watch. He tried to keep the momentum going. He signed with Combate Americas, fought a pro wrestler, and won again. But nobody cared. The fight world had moved on. In interviews, Tito still talked like he was on top. He said he would blast the haters and prove everyone wrong. But the only people watching were there to laugh, not cheer. That became his legacy. Not the fights, not the belts, but the way he clung to fame long after it faded. Tito became a meme. His interviews turned into viral clips. He mixed up phrases, invented new words, and made no sense. In one moment, he said, "I'm putting my best fist forward. I mean, foot, my foot in my mouth." He called himself as smart as a rock. Fans laughed. Commentators rolled their eyes. Even when elected to city office, his speeches were filled with confusion. He claimed COVID was a hoax, made bizarre accusations, and once tried to collect unemployment while earning a council salary. When the UFC honored its pioneers, Tito's name was barely mentioned. Dana White, still bitter, dismissed him with a few lines and more insults than praise. He once said, Tito was important. He also thought he was the smartest guy in the room, which is laughable. Tito Ortiz should have been remembered as one of the most important fighters in UFC history. He helped build the sport when no one was watching. He gave it drama, fire, and a face people recognized. But instead of walking away with grace, he kept fighting a battle he had already lost. His legacy, once bright, now serves as a warning to every fighter chasing fame. Know when to evolve, know when to stop, or risk becoming the punchline to your own story.